Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. Recording has started. I'll edit that out. Hey, folks, we're wrapping up with Adam Keyes from Land and Legacy, and we've been talking about food plots and a few other things today, this afternoon. And you're going to hear this, and Adam's going to wrap up, and this is going to be about 20, 30 minutes on food plots 365, because if you're going to start the food plot chain of events, you got to be there. You got to be all in. Just don't plan a kill plot, say that's good enough, and then you just disappear and think that's going to really help your land. You might kill a deer.
You might. Yeah.
But it's not going to help your land.
I think it's one of those things to where let's boil it down to the root of this of saying, okay, here's my best pitch for you of why should you plant a food plot, or you're weighing that out in your head and you say, okay, how much money are you willing to spend? Because to actually have a successful food plot, one that's beneficial and your work is actually rewarded, it's going to take this amount of dollars. And if they're like, I don't know if I have that, if I've set aside that much, well, then we can take what you do have set aside and do something probably just as beneficial.
And so that, and we've been talking about the land management plan, and sometimes the native browse and forbs and everything you have on your property today, enhance it, and that'll be better than the food plot. Now, don't yell at me, XYZ seed companies, for saying that, but that's the truth.
Well, let's look at it like this, Bruce. When did food plots originate? And maybe it was 30 years ago. Okay, 30 years ago. What were the deer surviving on before that? Well, then let's go back before we introduce things like alfalfa and soybeans and say, okay, deer were doing just fine before we settled America. I mean, they were here. It wasn't like we introduced them and then we had to provide food plots so they could survive. They were doing just fine without us. So how do we replicate what was going on during that time frame and then use food plots to our advantage? So basically for us is, okay, if we replicate nature pre-settlement, what was going on before we moved in, if you will, a lot of the things that were there, you look at it, Great Plains comes to mind. There was diversity. It wasn't just native grass. It was all kinds of wildflowers and forbs. So there was tons of food. We had a approximately 75 million buffalo living here in North America. That's a lot. That's a lot of forage to have to just feed the buffalo. And then there was estimated about 15 million elk. And then there was all the whitetail deer. So there was plenty of food available without any food plots. But the problem is now we don't have that same type of habitat. So replicating that habitat by a lot of prescribed fire, opening up the canopy and getting back to woodlands and savannas to where you have this undergrowth managed with prescribed fire to where you have food available year round, and then you can add the food plots on top of that. And for us, food plots come in as a hunting destination or a way to pattern deer. So maybe you're not hunting on the podcast. I think this was the first segment. Maybe you're hunting off of it, but you still have a more consistent pattern of deer going to and from a specific area.
And, all through this whole series, I've been talking about transition plots. I call them kill plots because I just want that buck to stop. I want that doe to stop.
That's right.
And on between bedding and where they're going to feed, I want them just to stop. And they do that anyway. Here's one thing I would challenge everybody to do this year. Go out to your favorite place, play the wind, just as if you're going to hunt, leave your bow at home. Take your camera and just watch how deer move through the woods. You're not going to kill them. You're just going to sit there and watch. And just watch how they move, because unless chased, they don't gallop or run through the woods. They just kind of mosey and they slip their toe underneath the leaf and they do this and they munch here and have a munch here. And that's what they do. And so many times we don't get that. And so 365, food plots, my idea of small food plots is simply you're going to get them to come along their trail and little opening or whatever, then they're just going to stop for a munch. Well, everything works out right, you might get a shot. Then again, you might not.
That's right. I think of analogy we used one of our clients or consultant clients a while back was when you're hunting those little small food plots, they're not destination food plots to where deer aren't going to come in an hour before dark and then stand in it all night long. They're going to come in an hour or half hour or 20 minutes before dark. They're going to grab a few bites. They're going to stop and take a few bites, but they're going to keep on walking and get where they're going. So you're hunting an animal in their hallway rather than hunting them in the kitchen. The problem with hunting them in their kitchen or destination area is they're standing in that food plot when you have to climb down and get out of there. So there's a better chance or a high risk of spooking them. You hunt them in the hallway, they're just passing through, and you see them, you can shoot them or not, or pass them, take photos, and then they're going on about their business, and you're walking out, and they're never even knowing you're in the world.
Because bucks do have, staging areas that, we're not going to get into that. That's hunting techniques and that type of stuff. But 365, so in January, what the heck do I want to make sure is on the ground or available, for my deer? They come out of the rut, the does are bred. A lot of things are going on, and everybody's stressed. I mean, it was a tough, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's right. So from a native standpoint, natural food available, you want to make sure you have young forests, some browse available. So that could be in the form of stump sprouts, young trees growing. There's little buds everywhere. Maybe you want to go out and this is a technique we use during January of going out and cutting some trees down that have already started budding or forming buds. So dogwoods come to mind, hickories come to mind, some oaks. They've already started, even sassafras started putting on little bitty buds to where that's a great food source, but chances are it's too high for the deer to reach. So you cut those trees down, now you've made it available. If it's still hunting season, you can hang a stand, then cut the trees, go in there and hunt it that afternoon or next day and probably catch deer coming in there to feed on that. So during January, February, you want to make sure you have plenty of browse available, and that's not in the form of forbs and things like that. It's probably more in the form of young forest.
Yeah, and a tip from hunting out west, when the aspen, there's in the fall, there's a peak time that the leaves are they get the most, energy, food source, nutrition. That's the word I was looking for, nutrition, that they're going to have all year. Well, mule deer know that. And you can see them actually just eating the leaves. And I learned this from a guy hunting with in the Book of Mountains, and he said, "Here, we're gonna hunt this because the leaves are coming and everything. They'll be coming through like vacuum cleaners." That's what he said, and he was right. There wasn't a herd. It was just one and two. They knew where the food was. They're just moseying on through and munching here, munching there, but they knew where the food was at that right time. So January we got that. February we got similar things, and then March is a tough time.
March is a very tough month. It's often
tough month.
Yes, because that's in that period of before spring green up, and it's the very end of the growing, basically, of the whole year. So everything's been eaten year round, and then food is very limited, and we're now waiting on spring green up so we can get some new growth. So, well, let's talk about January, February, March from a food plot standpoint. You want something that's high energy. So if you want to plant something that's going to be great during those months, it's some sort of carbohydrate in the form of probably a soybean, pods, or corn. Another thing you could plant to get some food available that time of the year would be turnips. So they're probably eating the bulbs of the turnips at that point. But one thing I really like to plant for that February, March would be wheat, winter wheat or triticale or oats, something that can take the forage and then it's gonna be one of the first things to start greening up in the spring. There you go.
I'm just trying to think, because like winter wheat, that's what it does.
Greens up quicker than a lot of food plots.
Till the snow geese kick the crap out of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but even then, you think about winter wheat, and you plant one seed, and it grows up in a stem, like one little thing. It gets eaten, then you get 4 or 5 stems, and then it gets eaten, and it starts clumping up. That was a wonderful thing about it, and that's why you see cattle farmers or see guys turn cows on wheat fields, is just so they can get more growth. And so even with snow geese and deer and the amount of traffic cows, they just can't hardly eat it to where it goes away. It just keeps coming back. And so February, March, there's usually some sort of growth coming in there.
Yeah. So, and then now we're in April, May, June, 200 days have gone by. So we're seeing fawns drop. And I'm just going to throw this in because I've been thinking about it. If you're not predator hunting your land, get somebody who wants to go out and kill some coyotes. If you can hunt where bears are, bears and coyotes, and of course wolves. But we've got from one of the farms that I hunt in Wisconsin, unbelievable trail camera shot of a wolf with a fawn in its mouth going by the thing, and it's just like, oh my goodness. I mean, did it weigh 20 pounds? It doesn't matter. She's going to feed her pups, or he, and it's just like predator control is so critical. You can feed them, but if they get pounded, by the predators, you're not doing them, and you're not helping. This goes back into the whole land management thing. You've got to spend time. And the other thing is, when the coyote pups come out, they've never been shot at. They don't know who humans are. You can dupe them easier than you can mom and dad. Your thoughts on that? I know we're off track a little bit, but
I have some thoughts on that. It's a little bit probably. I look at predator control with a couple of different ideas than a lot of other people. The coyote native, to where it's always been here, and I mean, there's a lot of great interviews with a guy talking about coyotes are the one species that we've almost tried to completely kill out, but we never could. Only thing we did was cause their population to grow even more. When you think about predators too, though, now it's great if you can trap and hunt them, but chances are a lot of guys don't have that capability to do that on their farm day in and day out, where they really leave a big impact. Think about it from adding more when you look at the diets of those predators, specifically the coyote. What is his diet? A lot of, and it's rabbits and rats and mice and voles and songbirds and quail. And then you step up the food chain and there's turkeys and then there's fawns. So if we could add more of those other species, that might take the pressure off of the fawns. And so when you look at the populations of rabbits, cottontail rabbit, they've dropped a lot because of lack of habitat. The quail, the grouse, have all dropped because of we've lost the habitat that they need. That early succession, native grasses, high diversity of all kinds of that. We don't have that habitat much anymore. We farm from ditch row to ditch row. But if we added that habitat, we would have more rabbits, we'd have more rats, we'd have more quail, and then we'd have more food available to where maybe they might not be eating as many fawns and turkeys. They would be eating those animals instead. And you look at the birth rate of rabbits; they may have a couple of litters every single year, with a lot of them, to where a doe is only going to have one or two, maybe three. So let's try to. I look at it trying to take the pressure off them by improving the habitat.
And I'll add to that. Trapping is a lost art in America because a lot of people, especially out here in Colorado, I was there when we lost, leg hole traps, and I was there when baiting for bear in the springtime. I was at the commission hearings, and then you just go, because it's all a balance. That's the thing that we don't know, and I really like what you just said, because it is a balance. If we enhance the habitat where all these critters are living to its carrying capacity, we're not going to I don't want on our farm. I don't want 100 deer on our farm.
No, yeah, I see that a lot where people manage for deer and they let the population get out of control just because they like seeing deer, but that's not the way God intended it to be. Where a population, you remove the predators so much to where the deer just thrive and thrive and thrive, and that's not healthy either.
Because Eddie, in our pre-hunt, get together, he says, I've got too much corn getting knocked down, and folks, a farmer lives by his yield bushel per acre.
That's right.
That's what he lives and dies by. And we've already talked about in other shows, he's got to put in a lot of stuff, gets the 100-year farm. He's got a lot of inputs to get the output. And then you get the commodity prices, you get the whole thing. Farming's a crapshoot, really.
No, it's
if you think about it. So you think about that. He says, if you got a tag, use it. We got tags, in as many does as you see, because they're not going to go. We're going to eat every single of those does they're gone. I mean, freezers are empty. Right now. Freezers are empty. But he tells us that, and it's sometimes hard for people to see, well, it's just, it's just it's just a doe. So who cares? You gotta go with the farmer, and you gotta go with that balance, because the land will tell you what it needs. I guess that's what I'm trying to say right now.
That's right.
The land will tell you exactly what it needs. It's up to you to read the signs.
That's right. And it's a whole lot easier to work with nature than against it. And that's what I haven't even used this word, which is surprising to me. Here we are in segment 3. But when you look at land and how you can improve it, one of the biggest things you can do is think of one word: diversity. How can you add diversity to where if you plant something, it's funny, we were talking food plots, and 10 minutes later we're not even close to food plots.
Oh, well.
Diversity, that's right. Adding diversity can be key. Adding young forests so you have plenty of browse. Adding early successional habitat as far as ragweed, pokeberry, and then some grasses, native grasses, and then food plots on top of that, and young shrubby species as well as oaks and other type. All those mixed together is probably going to do a whole lot better than you trying to plant a 1-acre food plot.
Isn't that something?
That's funny how that works. And we always say it. We can't do better than the way it was designed. All we can do is try to replicate the way it was designed. And so adding diversity, managing with the natural type of management that was used in our area, that was prescribed fire and grazing. So trying to replicate that is key to having the most productive we can on our the most productive land that we can. So.
And think about that. That comes back to thinking about not just killing deer. It's being Thoreau and Walden Pound and Theodore Roosevelt, and you can go on and on and on and on. And there's some iconic people, I didn't even use their name, but when you think about it, the Native Americans had it figured out. As far they had it figured out because they moved with the buffalo, because the buffalo would eat 1,000 acres here and no more food, and they'd leave, but they fertilized it when they
That's
left.
right.
And they fertilized it, and they turned it over because they had their dust ups or whatever they call them, their dusting bowls and all that, and then the elk were plains animals. Most people know that, but that's what they were. They were plains animals. The antelope,
Or the grizzly bear.
the grizzly bear, plains animal. Why? Because that's where the food was. I mean,
That's right.
just think 75 million buffalo. The wolves, they just animal alone, and that was their symbiotic relationship with the whole earth, because the calves and the weak stuff, they get disease. They were lunch.
That's right. Survival of the fittest. And
They were just lunch.
Buffalo, it was that rotation of the buffalo was how, to me, that's just one of the craziest things is when you think about how huge the herds were of buffalo, thousands and thousands of them moving around, and they would basically eat a third and trample 2/3 of the plant, and the amount of hooves that and the weight of them just almost in pushing that biomass into the soil, but then leaving the manure and the urine and the saliva, the snot of all the bacteria that they would leave behind, which fed the insects. And they would then break down the manure into the soil. And but then the key component was they didn't return to eat there because there's so much manure, and they gave it time for everything to rest and grow back. That was just, I nerd out over that, but that's definitely something that is amazing to me that went on.
Yeah, and we're literally off the reservation we are. But you think about that, and that's a perfect example, because I've been to the buffalo jumps, and when it's a buffalo jump, the Indians, they didn't use spears, nothing. They used sticks and stones and herded the buffaloes to these cliffs and jumped them off the cliff. And at the bottom, everybody in the village was, slitting throats and processing meat. And, the buffalo, if you study it, and I love just what Adam just said, because if you really study it, it was amazing how they could support that many animals. 75 million of anything is a lot. It really is. And they would travel, and they'd have highway. I mean, it was just incredible. And the Indians would follow them, and the wolves would follow them. And the grizzlies, we've already talked about that. But it all worked. It really did. And then we came and we kind of messed it up. No, we really did.
It's depressing what we did. But when you think about the Native American with the buffalo, even though they did that, they would drive them off a bluff. One thing they still did was respect the animal and had that spiritual type connection with the animal. And that's something to me that I feel like we don't do anything near what they did. They had this almost admiration and respect to the animal, even though they were killing it.
Well, that was their life. It's just I was fortunate to be up in the hunt with the Inuit up north, and I was sitting with an elder, and I just said, "How do you people do that?" Because the Inuits have been there a long time. They came across the land bridge. If you don't know where that is, Google it and do some reading. But he said it was real simple. If the caribou came, we lived. If it didn't come, we died. Simple. That was it. Period. They used every single part of that animal. Nothing was ever, nothing was wasted. And I was just amazed, the simplicity of the life, the hardness of the life. If you've ever been up in the Arctic, you just know, how hard it is. There's 2 or 3 months. It's really fun to be there. The rest of the time, I don't want to be there, but I guess we're wrapping up the segment, the diversity, and we're part of that. And if you want to become a better hunter, get into your land.
That's right. Pour into it. And, we talked about in the last segment of kind of the 10-year plan. Let's look at it and say, let's manage it for my lifetime and do such a good job with managing it that I inspire the next generation to do the same thing and keep on managing it, where we're doing nothing but improving the land and not repeat history of destroying the land while we were here, and then the next generation messes it up even a little bit more. At some point, that's got to come to an end. So let's go ahead and work on improving it.
So how do people get a hold of Adam Keith?
They can reach out on Land and Legacy Instagram or Facebook, or get on the website www.landandlegacy.tv and shoot us an email right there. Ask us a question and follow along on the podcast.
And then both Adam and I will be going back to the Facebook Live that we had, and if there's anything in the comments, we within 24 hours we'll have them replied to.
That's right.
So if you did that, or you want to go back, in today's the 10th of April, we did a Facebook Live, Adam Keith and Land and Legacy, and Bruce Hutchin, host of Whitetail Running. And with that, it's time to go have supper.
Next time, don't even give me a topic, because I know we're not going to follow it.
That was funny, but you're one of the first people in a really long time that I talked about the buffalo, and just and just the hoofs and rolling and everything and the wolves. I mean, everything wasn't all that bad.
Nope, and not at all. And it's I read a book recently. I forget which one it was, but talking about the coyote involved in that and how it was almost worshipped by the natives. And now in today's society, it's this scoundrel. And it's funny how times have changed.
Yeah. Well, send me that name of that book. Email me that. I'd like to read that. All right, folks. We could go on for days. I'm afraid, and so we're not. And so, Bruce right. Out.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.